Betty. Welcome to my kitchen. It's summer. Time to enjoy the outdoors and summer's wonderful produce. A couple of weekends ago, it was our daughter's birthday and we journeyed to Vermont. And I made the birthday dinner she's been having since she's been old enough to ask for a birthday dinner, which was always basically fried chicken and peach pie. Peaches are in season, not our wonderful New Jersey peaches yet, but we are getting some good peaches from the south. And so today I want to share with you my recipe for peach pie. And I'd also like to introduce you to the newest member of our family, Miss Annie. Annie is a cockapoo that we rescued from an animal shelter. She's only been with us a couple of days, but already she has settled in as though she's lived here forever. And she's a perfect lady. We'll start by making our pie crust. I have here a cup and a half of flour and a half cup of butter, which I have diced into fairly small pieces, you can see. I'm just going to toss that in. I should mention I also have a pinch of salt in here. What I'm going to do are toss these butter cubes to get them lightly coated with flour. And you want to make sure your butter is good and cold. And now the old-fashioned way of doing this, oh, and this is really cold, so I think what I'll do, I'll just start it off a little bit with this pastry blender to flake the butter a little bit. You want your butter really nice and cold because that's what's going to create a flaky pie crust. Now you can, of course, use part butter and part lard if you can get that, or part vegetable shortening. I most often use an all butter crust. Let's see if that's more workable. And what you do in this process is sort of squeeze that butter, and you can see it goes into flakes. And that is what is going to make our pie crust nice and flaky. Many recipes will tell you to do this until this looks like fine crumbs. I really don't like to take it quite that far. What I want are these nice flakes. I hope you can see that. And this is just about where I want it. And I have ready some ice water. Cold is important when you're making pastry. We'll just add a little, give this a stir. This is probably going to take about 4 tablespoons or so. It's hard to be precise, since the quantity of water is really going to depend on the moisture in the flour, which depends on the humidity in the air. So we just add a little at a time. Give this a stir. I'm not mashing this, I'm just really tossing it to get the water incorporated in. Give that a little. All right, now at this point what I'm going to do is just check it in my hand to see if it's going to hold. And it really looks like it has enough water in it. You just sort of take a clump, and if it will hold together like that, you're there. And what I'll do now is turn this out onto a sheet of wax paper. I might need a drop more water in this last little part. Just needed a drop or 2 more water to get this, I think, just where it needs to be, and we'll empty that out. And what I like to do is just take the corners of my paper and get this pretty much blended into a ball, and I'll give it a couple of turns. Give that a squeeze. Knead it a little bit just to make sure that moisture is well distributed. It takes a little bit of practice to know when the dough is just right. If you have it too dry, it's going to break up when it's time to roll it out. And of course, you don't want it too wet either. Wax paper is a great help in getting this combined. And we'll just form this into a disc. And what I'll do now is wrap it up and put it in the refrigerator to chill for about an hour. It's ready to go into the refrigerator. My dough has chilled for an hour and it's now ready to proceed to roll it out. All right, I'm going to use a little more than a half for my bottom crust. And I should have told you that this quantity is good for a 7-inch pie. When it's just Rick and I usually make a 7-inch rather than a 9-inch. The quantities for a 9-inch pie would be 2 cups of flour and 2/3 cup of shortening. I'm just going to flatten this out a little bit with the heel of my hand. As you can see, I have it on a sheet of wax paper. I always prefer to roll my dough between 2 sheets of wax paper rather than doing it on a flour-coated surface. All that does really is add more flour to your dough and can toughen it. Now, I have 2 types of rolling pin. This straight pin and a tapered French pin, and this is the one I really like to use. I always feel I have more control over this. So at this point, I'm just going to flatten this out a little more. And then I will start rolling. And you only roll in one direction at a time. You don't do this kind of thing. You roll in one direction at a time. And we're just going to continue rolling until the circle is about 9 or 10 inches, which will fill my pie pan and give me a nice overhang. I see my assistant chef is lying down on the job. Are you having a nap, Annie? Annie, is it nap time? Is it nap time? I've got my dough to about the size I want, and when you're going to remove the wax paper, you don't pull it up straight up. What you want to do is provide the least resistance possible. And I see this has started to stick. So what I'm going to do is put it back in the refrigerator to let it firm up. And in the meantime, I will roll out my second sheet of dough. So this is going back into the refrigerator. All right, I put my pie crust back in the refrigerator and this time was able to peel off the wax paper without very much in the way of sticking. What you do is you pull one side off, flip it over, peel off the other, and then just flip it in to your pie crust. And it's starting to soften already. That's the problem with trying to bake on a warm day, even with air conditioning. But there, that's not bad. And what you're going to do is just ease that in down the sides of your pie plate. As I said, this is a 7-inch pie plate. And you can see how quickly this softens. So what I'll do is I'll put it back in the refrigerator while I continue with the rest of it. All right, now for the top crust, I'm going to peel back this paper, Still sticking a tiny bit, but I think we'll be okay. And as I said, we're just going to flip this over and peel away the top sheet. I'm going to make a lattice top for this pie, so I'm going to use a fluted pastry cutter and just cut this into strips. There. And now this is going to go back into the refrigerator while I prepare the peach filling. I guess there are more than 2 ways to peel peaches. One that I know of is to dip them in boiling water for just a few seconds and then in cold water, and the skins will slip off quite quickly. But if you don't want to heat your kitchen boiling water on a warm day, use one of these serrated peelers. They work quite well. They don't remove a lot of the peach. And really do a very nice job. For our pie filling, I have a ½ cup of sugar. I've got a ½ teaspoon of cinnamon, a few grindings of nutmeg, and 2 tablespoons of flour and a pinch of salt. I'm just going to combine this in a small bowl before adding it to about 4½ cups of peaches. That's from 5 good-sized peaches. These were quite large. To fill a 7-inch pie, you want about 4½ cups. For a 9-inch pie, you'll probably want a good 6, possibly 7 cups. Okay, that's well mixed. I'm just going to add this to my peaches and toss them to combine this. Okay, we'll just scoop these right into the pie crust. This might be a little generous. I think I won't put in these last couple. We don't want it to be overflowing. And just before I add the top crust, I'm going to add just a little bit of butter, which I'll slice in very small pieces. Just adds a little richness to the pie, which of course is just what a pie needs, is something even more rich. But there we are. Pie is not and never will be diet food. And to make our lattice top, we just start laying these strips across. Just like so. That's a little one off the end. And then what you do is you take half of them and fold them back. Oops. This one on. These are a little stiff. I did pop this in the freezer because it was so soft. Put those back and then fold the alternating ones back. And you can see you've got a beautiful lattice top for your peach pie. Now you want to cut off any excess because we don't want the edge of our crust to be too thick. Just carefully with the edge of a knife. Trim these off. And then my method is to turn the edge of the pie crust up. Turn this, I hope you can see. Just turn it sort of up and over. And if there's a thin piece, you can just take a little leftover edge piece, fold that right on to make your crust even. And I can see this piece is a little short here, so again, I'm going to take one of these strips, just fold that in, so I'll have a nice edge on my pie. When we finish crimping this, no one will ever know that there was a patch. And this is how I like to crimp my crust. Just take it between your thumb and forefinger and give it a pinch. Got to work quickly because this is getting soft again. And I do want to get it in the oven before it's too soft. Just pinch. And if you want it even more defined, just go around a second time and give that a nice crimp. Little peach sticking out there. There. That's ready for our oven, which I have preheated at 400 degrees. It's going to go in at 400 for 15 minutes, and then we'll turn the heat down to 350 for a further 30 minutes. I'm going to put a piece of foil in the bottom to catch any drips, because pies, fruit pies especially, do have a tendency to drip. So we'll just put that in, and there it is for 15 minutes at 400. All right, our pie has finished cooking. You can see the juices are bubbling and it's a nice brown. And I want you to see the reason for putting a piece of foil underneath. All the juices that came out of that pie. If the foil wasn't there, they'd be messing up your oven. And because this pie is still dripping, I'm going to slide it onto a cookie sheet. There we go. And take it out of the oven. And there you have it. Perfect peach pie. The only thing that would enhance that is maybe a scoop of good vanilla ice cream. I hope you'll enjoy it. For further information and even more recipes, please visit my website.